18 ноября мы проведем форум о трансформации образования, где поговорим о том, как меняется сегодня система образования, успевает ли она за требованиями рынка и что такое человекоцентричное образование. Об этом мы поговорили сегодня с деканом IE Business School, профессором Ньюманом Ли. How does self-discovery fit into the concept of lifelong learning? And what role do academic institutions play in this process?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Olga. So I think self-discovery is absolutely critical for a couple of reasons. I mean, first, when you think about emotional intelligence, the concept of emotional intelligence, one of the core aspects of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And some people are higher in self-awareness, some people are lower, but all of us have blind spots. So I think that self-discovery has one critical ingredient, which is uncovering those blind spots. And the best way to do that, of course, is getting feedback. So that's one aspect of self-discovery that I think is critical to lifelong learning, because you have to know what to learn. And there's the hard skills part, which we all know which the market dictates. But when it comes to soft skills, behavioral skills, workplace, skills, we don't always know. And that's where the discovery part, I think, is critical. And the only way to make that happen is to engage in either a coaching type process where someone helps you uncover these things, or to get feedback. So I do think self-discovery is critical, because I think the things that we don't know that we need to learn are the most important things to learn.
But how do academic institutions help in this process?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is that, I mean, two answers. The first is that the workplace is not always a safe place. The thing that an academic institution offers, like a business school or a university offers, is a safe laboratory where you can take off the masks that you wear at work and try behaviors, try learning to be more proactive, more assertive if you're shy, try new behaviors and get feedback from your classmates, which is very different than doing it with your colleagues in an environment at work where you have results to deliver. So I think that institutions of education have a big role to play in providing the right environment for this kind of lifelong behavioral skills learning. So I think that that's one way we help. And then another way that academic institutions play a role is of course bringing a bit more of the science-based theory to the table.
In what ways does today's learning experience reflect the world and the job market?
In general, our mission is to graduate students who have the skills that companies want. So we have to, I think, simulate the corporate real world work experience in our learning experiences, so that when you learn to do something, it's in the same kind of environment that it would be when you're out working in a company. So I think that that's critical. We spend a lot of time, our whole team of deans, we spend a lot of time talking to recruiters and to companies, to functional managers or unit managers and HR directors, to understand their needs. And we do that every year. And we actually review our program content and learning methodologies every year. For example, we've had some tech programs, analytics programs, where we've changed the programming language in the same academic year, because we found out from companies that there was a new language they wanted that people were using, and so we inserted that into a course that was coming a few months down the road. So I think schools have to get more agile to really sense the market and change the programs as quickly as possible to meet the market.
What do companies want from the new graduates, and don't they want too much?
They do. I mean, I don't blame them, but they do want a lot. They do want a lot from MBA or from business graduates or bachelor graduates. So what we see happening is, I mean, basically, companies want hard skills. That's nothing new. But they have to be more specific than in the past. But then what we hear over and over again is that companies really want soft skills. And I always say, there's nothing soft about soft skills. I mean, they're hard skills because they're actually hard to acquire. And so I think that we are spending a lot of time investing in a rethink on how do you train soft skills, behavioral skills, because to our earlier conversation, we need to simulate reality in school. And a lot of reality is working in teams, not getting along with people on your team, learning to deal with differences, with diversity. So we're spending increasing amounts of time trying to deliver these soft skills that companies demand. And then third, increasingly, companies are demanding digital skills, which if you're going to work in analytics or finance, it's then you could call those hard skills. But what we see is that digital skills have become a separate set of skills in a way that everybody has to have, not just numerical, quantitative people. So even if you're working in the creative side of media development in a marketing or communication department, they want digital skills. And so really we see digital as a kind of a third demand from companies, and something that we have to include as a horizontal transversal skill that underlies any type of education that we're delivering. So those are the big three that we hear, and they want all of them.
How can companies ensure that they are nurturing talents that will help business innovate and succeed in the times of constant change?
Critical question. So I was, just to give you a little story. So I was with a CEO of a global corporation 2 years ago, and we were working on an innovation project to kind of incentivate and inspire the leadership team of this company to innovate. And so we were designing a kind of a training session together. And I mentioned the idea that, well, we have to communicate to your employees that they have to fail, that they need to try things, they need to experiment, and they should feel safe and comfortable failing. And the CEO kind of stopped and looked at me and said, but I don't want them to fail. Then I sort of smiled and said, then you're not going to get innovation. Innovation means experimenting and trying. And it's, if you have a team or a manager or an individual contributor who everything is perfect and nothing ever is wrong, and there's nothing ever to improve, they're not innovating. There's no way that they're innovating. So I think companies have to encourage this sort of more agile way of working, which is proposing quick experiments, crowdsourcing ideas on those experiments so that you eliminate the risks as much as possible, so that even people that don't get along are contributing ideas together so they have different perspectives. And that's where diversity is so critical. So, and then trying it and trying a little pilot test, learning how to test things in small scale, see what happens, and then give people credit for actually finding problems and learning from small failures, improving them, and then finding the right solution and then scaling it up. And I think that sounds easy, but many companies aren't willing to do that. And if they're not willing to do that, they're not going to innovate.
So, Professor Nьюман, we are going to see you at the conference on November 18. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to participating and to engaging with the other panelists and the audience. I'm particularly interested in self-discovery as part of the learning process, and how making it people-centric. So I hope that's interesting, and I look forward to seeing everyone at the conference.